All right, if you've ever tried building a pen testing lab, you know the feeling. You hit this wall. And that wall is almost always VirtualBox networking. It's the one thing that can turn a quick lab setup into an all-night headache. Well, this explainer is all about giving you that time back.
And this quote, man, it just hits home, doesn't it? You spend hours debugging some super complex exploit, thinking you've messed up the payload, only to find out the real problem was a simple drop-down menu you clicked at the very beginning. I'm guessing it does. You'll launch that perfect reverse shell and it just never connects back. Or you run a port scan on a machine you know is vulnerable and it comes back completely empty. Yeah, you've been there. We've all been there. So let's call this what it is, the Saturday stealing problem. And here's the secret. It's almost never your tools that are broken. The problem is usually that one little network setting you just kind of glossed over during the setup. That's the whole thing right there. The source of all this frustration isn't some bug in Metasploit or Nmap. It's the fact that VirtualBox politely lets you build a completely broken lab without ever screaming at you. These network modes look simple, but that's exactly where the trap is. Okay, this is the most important mindset shift you need to make. Stop thinking of these as just network settings. Start thinking of them as threat models for your lab. Every mode you pick, NAT, host-only, bridged, completely changes the rules of the game. It defines who can see what, and that is everything. So let's get into it. We're going to break down the 3 key modes and the specific job that each one is designed for. Because once you know which tool to use for which job, you stop making these frustrating mistakes. First up is NAT mode. Just think of this as your utility mode. It's awesome for letting your Kali VM get out to the internet to download tools or grab updates. It keeps everything nice and isolated. But, and this is the part that trips everyone up, it makes it really, really hard for anything else on your network to connect back into that VM. It's a one-way street. Next up, host only. Now, this is your secret weapon. This is your repeatability engine. Host only creates a totally private little bubble network that only exists between your host computer and your VMs. No internet, no noise from your smart TV or your phone. It is the perfect, sterile, clean room environment for practicing your attacks. And finally, there's bridged mode. This one is totally different. It basically puts your VM directly on your home network. It gets its own IP address from your Wi-Fi router, just like your laptop. Now, this gives you maximum realism, but it comes with big risks. You're potentially exposing a vulnerable machine to your network, and you're flooding your lab with a ton of extra network traffic. So, how do you choose? Well, it just comes down to your goal. If you just need to get updates for a single VM, NAT is your friend. If you're doing a classic attacker versus target lab and you need clean, repeatable results, it's host-only almost every time. And you should only really use bridged mode if you specifically need to test how a machine acts on a real, messy local network. All right, let's talk about the brutal mistakes. The common ones that are probably responsible for that lost Saturday. We're going to walk through each one and, more importantly, the fast fix that gets you back on track. This quote just paints such a perfect picture, right? One VM is on the host-only island. The other VM is on the NAT island. You've literally built 2 separate worlds, and you're standing on the shore wondering why they can't talk to each other. Your tools aren't broken. Your entire lab's architecture is. Okay, mistake number 1, and this is the big one. People assume that if you put 2 VMs on the default NAT setting, they can just magically talk to each other. They can't. Each one gets its own little private tunnel out to the internet, but they're blind to each other. So how do you fix it? Well, there's the complicated way, which involves creating a special NAT network, but honestly, for 90% of what you're doing in a lab, the simpler, better fix is to just put both your attacker and your target on the same host-only network. Done. Problem solved. Oh man, this one is a classic. You fire up Nmap, you hit enter, and you get nothing back. So what's your first instinct? You start messing with the flags, changing the timing, second-guessing your entire command. You're basically trying to fix a recipe before you've even checked if the oven is on. Look, the fix is so simple. Just take a breath and do a 60-second pre-flight check. Before you touch a single tool flag, ask yourself, are the IPs on the same network? Can I ping the target? Can I make just one simple connection? You have to validate the path before you blame the tool. Okay, now that we know the mistakes, let's build a proper toolkit. These are the simple go-to processes that are going to save you time and, let's be honest, a whole lot of sanity when things inevitably go wrong. And just to show you, this isn't some tiny little optimization. We're talking about saving 10 to 30 minutes every single time you sit down to do a lab. Why? Because by defaulting to host only, you eliminate all of that network guesswork. You know they can talk, so you can focus on the fun part. So here it is. This is the 5-step flow you need to burn into your brain. The next time something doesn't work, don't panic. Just go right down the list. 1. What mode am I in? 2. What are the IPs? 3. Is my listener on the right interface? 4. Can I run a minimal test? And only then, at step 5, do you even think about adjusting your tools. All right, we've covered the problems, the fixes, the mindset. Now let's put it all together. Let's build the Pro Default Stack. This is the simple, repeatable setup that will just work for 90% of the training labs you'll ever do. Here's the magic formula. Your attacker machine, your Kali box, is going to have 2 network adapters. Adapter 1 is set to host only. That's for all your clean, private lab traffic. Adapter 2 is set to NAT. You keep it turned off most of the time and just flip it on when you need to download a tool. And your target VMs? Even simpler. They get 1 adapter and 1 adapter only, host only. That's it. It's the best of both worlds. And if you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. Your biggest breakthroughs in pen testing won't come from some fancy new tool. They'll come from having a lab that is stable, predictable, and reliable. When you stop fighting your network, you can finally start learning. So there you have it. That's the playbook. A fast, clear guide to finally taming VirtualBox networking. The foundation is solid, your lab is stable, so the only question left is, what are you going to break next?